Okay, we're ready for Notes 10C for the Math 4 course. This is the section that I've been promising about multiplying two matrices, and hopefully it's not going to be quite as bad as all that. I'm hoping I will explain it in a way that makes sense. There is a certain procedure involved in multiplying matrices, and there's even a procedure first to decide if you can even do this. So we'll go over that first. First of all, determining whether multiplication of matrices is possible. If I'm going to try and say A times B, then I need to first figure out the order of each matrix. Now, matrix A has 2 rows and 3 columns. That's going to be a 2 by 3. Matrix B has 3 rows and 2 columns, so that would be a 3 by 2. Now, the rule says that if the 2 numbers in the middle, now this is exactly in order, in the order that you intend to multiply them. If the 2 numbers in the middle match, then this is a go. You are clear to start multiplying the matrices. Now, here's the fun part, is that the 2 numbers on the end are going to tell you what kind of answer that you're going to get. Your result is going to be a 2 by 2 matrix. And so that, when you're comparing the order of each matrix and you put them in order like that, it's always the first one times the second one. When we're dealing with algebra rather than matrices, when we're dealing with algebra, there is the commutative property of multiplication that says A times B and B times A are the same thing. Well, it does not hold in matrix multiplication. All right, as a matter of fact, far from it. This is and as we're going to see in just a moment, we're going to try A times B and then we're going to try B times A and watch what happens. And you'll see that it's not the same thing. All right, so let's go through, technically we were doing multiply A times B, determine if the products are possible. So again, a 2 by 3, a 3 by 2. I see that I have a match in the middle, and so my result is going to be a 2 by 2 because of this guy and that guy. All right, and that's A times B. Watch what happens when you switch them around. All right, if you're going to say B times A, B was the 3 rows and 2 columns. A was the 2 rows and 3 columns. Remember RC Cola, they got to be in that order. Now watch what happens here. This is something really funky. They match, which means that I can do B times A, but look at what happens to the answer. The answer is a 3 by 3 result. So if I do A times B, I get a 2 by 2 for an answer. But if I do it backwards, I do a B times A, I get a 3 by 3 for an answer. Now, I'm just going to tell you right now, there's probably half as many cases where the multiplication does not even work. You get to that matching the 2 numbers in the middle, and it doesn't happen. And it just means, whatever you're trying to multiply is going to be undefined. All right. Now, let's walk through the steps of this. If we're going to say C times D, C is 2 rows, 3 columns. D is 3 rows and 2 columns. And we're able to look at this and say, yeah, we can do this. We got a match there. And our answers are going to be a 2 by 2 as a result. Now, we're actually going to do the multiplication, and I'm going to show you something here. I know that I'm going to have a 2 by 2 as a result, and I'm kind of drawing boxes where each element goes. All right, that is a 2 by 2. But for instance, row 1, column 1, this guy in the upper left, he is going to have more than one or two letters. This and I've got this spelled out 4 times because I want you to see what's going on here. First of all, if this is row 1, column 1, then we're going to go here for row 1 and here for column 1. And we're going to go across that way, and we're going to come down that way. And we're going to say A times M plus B times S plus C times U. B times S plus C times U. And there is always going to be the sense that the row is moving from left to right, and the column is moving from up to down. Now, watch what happens when we move to our next row 1, column 2. So I'm going to do row 1 here, but I'm going to do column 2 over here. And so we're going to go across the top and down the right side. A times R plus B times T plus C times X. That is the pattern. That is the pattern that we're going to keep doing over and over again. The real challenge here is going to be keeping your ducks in a row, literally. You know, if a mistake is going to be made at this, it is usually not the higher math, it's usually the lower math. Because you make a simple copying error or something like that, or you get turned around. I'm going to show you in a minute when we start multiplying these with real numbers in them, that I've got something of a method of trying to keep this stuff straight. But I will say this, you try and juggle all of this in your head, good luck with that. That's may not end well. All right. So we are now at row 2 and column 1. So we're going to go row 2, which is this guy down here, and column 1, which is this guy over here. So we're going to say D times M plus E times S plus F times U. dm plus ES plus F times U. And so I'm hoping that the pattern is beginning to emerge here, because there's definitely a pattern to this. Row 2, column 2, row 2 here, column 2 here. We're going to go across row 2 and we're going to go down column 2. So we'll say D times R plus E times T plus F times X. dr plus ET plus Fx. Now, if there was any ability to simplify any of these groups, you've basically got 4 elements here, right? And each element has got a lot of algebra to it. If you can simplify it, you know, definitely do. These guys aren't going anywhere. So this is your final answer, because that's about as simplified as it gets. Now, what's with the boxes around them? I discovered as I was trying to work through this at the high school level that when I was trying to write this on a sheet of paper, that, you know, it started blurring between this element and that element, and I started losing my place with it if I wasn't real careful. So after a while, I learned to just, you know, figure out what are the dimensions that I'm going to need. I need a 2x2 here. So I'm going to draw a 2x2 with boxes, and then I will fill the boxes, and then we can simplify from there. And you'll see, I'll follow through on this pattern with some of the other examples. Now, let's warm up with a little scalar multiplication and addition. 2C plus D would look something like this. 2 times C is going to be -2 and 1 and 0 and 7 and 3 and -8 plus 0 and -3 and 2 and 4 and 8 and 1. And so our first step is to distribute the 2. Now I've got a -4 and a 2 and a 0 and a 14 and a 6 and a -16. And I'm going to add that to this other guy and see what we got when we're done. So -4 plus 0, 2 plus -3, 0 plus 2, 14 plus 4, 6 plus 8, -16 plus 1. Nope, I missed a sign there. I thought somehow the answer felt different from when I did the notes earlier today. -16 plus -1 is -17. All right. So that we already knew how to do. Now, let's talk about multiplying A times B. This is a 2 by 2. This is a 2 by 2, which means that I can do this, and my answer is going to be a 2 by 2. I'm going to come down here and do that box, and do that box, and that one, and that one, because I'm expecting several players, and I kind of want to keep them separate. All right, now let's start with row 1, column 1. That's going to give me 2 times 4 plus 3 times 8. It is real easy to get yourself backwards and turned around in this stuff. So sometimes I will mark this, lightly just to remind myself of where I'm going, and then, well, that's right. I'm still on row 1, but now I'm going to go to column 2. 2 times -5, and then 3 times 9. And then we'll switch over to column 2, or excuse me, row 2, column 1, -6 times 4 and 7 times 8. -6 times 4 plus 7 times 8. And then we're still on row 2, but this time we're on column 2. So we're going to say -6 times -5 and 7 times 9. Now at this point, all the players are in place. All I need to do now, 2 times 4, 3 times 8, -6 times 4, 7 times 8, and then 2 times -5, 3 times 9, -6 times -5, 7 times 9. It's a little easier to see where everybody is, at this level. But I mean, when you got all of this going on, all of these parentheses and pluses and minuses, it's real easy to get lost in it. All right, so your final answer is going to be 32 and 32 and 17 here and 93 there. That's what A times B is going to look like. Now, what's going to make this wild is when we turn around and multiply it backwards. And you're going to discover that it's going to make a completely different answer. Now, here is my suggestion. When you're looking at, whatever printed thing that they gave you, I've got A on the left and B on the right. But I'm really not going to be doing them in that order. I'm going to be doing them backwards. So sometimes what I will do is I will, A is already here. I'm going to say B, and I'm going to rewrite B over here. So that now they are in the order. I can go across the rows and down the columns in the order in which I'm familiar with it. Again, you do not need to juggle so much of this stuff in your head, because there are so many little pieces, so many moving parts to this thing that all you have to do is screw up one and your answer is now wrong. So we know that we're dealing with a 2 by 2 times a 2 by 2. They match, which means we can do this. And I got a 2 by 2 on the outside. So I'm going to make myself my little boxes. And let's start doing rows and columns. Rows, columns. 4 times 2 and -5 times -6. Then we'll move the column over and do 4 times 3 and -5 times 7. And now that we're done with the first row, we'll start working on the second row. First column, that's going to be 8 times 2 and 9 times -6. And then the last guy, we're still on row 2, but now we've moved over to column 2, 8 times the 3 and 9 times the 7. And at this point, all we have to do is simplify what's already in place. I got 38 here. 16 minus 54 is going to give me a -38. How curious. This is going to give me a -23. And this is going to give me an 87 altogether. So that is what B times A is going to look like. Now, C times D, something interesting happens. 3 rows, 2 columns. 3 rows, 2 columns. Oh, they were the same shape, so that doesn't surprise us, but no match. This is undefined. It's like trying to divide by 0. It's just not going to happen. And it's all that business about looking at the 2 numbers on the inside. When you say 3 by 2 and a 3 by 2, those 2 numbers in the middle, they got to match, or else this is not going to happen. All right, this is the last one, C times B, which I'm going to bring C over here. And 7, 3, and -8. It is important that you make sure you copy it correctly before you pull the stunt. All right, let's see now. C has 3 rows and 2 columns, so that makes it a 3 by 2. And this is a 2 by 2. Our numbers in the middle match. And our final answer is going to be 3 rows and 2 columns, just basically the same shape as C. So I'm going to start with that. All right, so I've got my rows and my columns. So I'm going to start with row 1, column 1, negative 2 times 4 plus 7 times 8. And then we'll move the column over 1. And we'll say negative 2 times negative 5 plus 7 times 9. And we're done with the first column. So now we can switch to the second column. Or excuse me, second row, first column. Get my words straight here. 1 times 4 plus 3 times 8. And then we'll move over to the other column. 1 times negative 5, 3 times 9. And that is our second row done. So we will start on the third row. And, well, I'm going to be consistent here. 0 times 4, negative 8 times 8. And then we go over to the other column. 0 times negative 5 and negative 8 times 9. So all of our pieces are in place. Now all we got to do is just go through and start simplifying. 2 times negative 4, 7 times 8. 1 times 4, 3 times 8. 0 times 4, negative 8 times 8. Negative 2 times negative 5, 7 times 9. 1 times negative 5, 3 times 7. 0 times negative 5, negative 8 times 9. And then we get to the last one. 56 minus 8 is 48. 24 and 4. 0 and negative 64. That was easy. 10 and 63. 27 minus 5 is 22. 0 and negative 72. And we are done with that beast.